Bart and Lisa are feeling a little upset right now. Isn't there something you'd like to say?
There sure is. Kid, you tried your best, and you failed miserably. The lesson is, never try. Right in the butt. That was great.
Did you read it?
We have. I'm playing our stupid intro, and I'm fully aware that we have like an iconic professional writer in the green room also watching our stupid intro, and I feel nothing but shame as I see these stupid images just like run across the screen. So
yeah,
maybe I'll change it. The world is cool,
but also the famous Spider Pig running across the screen.
Pig.
Exactly. So this is going to be a really fun episode because I famously, and this is a huge joke amongst my friends, but like I wasn't allowed watching Simpsons growing up. So I know
because y'all were the Christians, right?
Yeah, we were the Christians. My parents just thought it was like, I think I don't know if they thought it was vile, but I think it was like too smart and chippy.
Yeah.
And I think they were afraid I was going to grow up to be like a sarcastic dickhead if I like watched it, which happened anyway. They could have stopped nature.
Oh my gosh.
They couldn't stop it. But anyway, so this is Did You Reddit, a weekly podcast about the internet by way of Reddit, the front page of the internet. My name is It's Your Dad.
I'm Dog Boobs.
Hi, my free day. Recording not from the studio.
Not from the studio. Where are you right now?
I'm in my childhood home in Northern California because we're on four-year-old spring break.
Cool.
Oh my God, that's the wildest.
Back into your childhood home.
Yeah, no,
we've
gone
that downhill.
We're on spring break. We're visiting family. Yeah,
Northern California kindergarten spring break. Is it like COVID nightmare up there? People just completely partying, maskless.
It feels like the safest place in the world to be for COVID. Everyone's miles apart in the woods. Nobody's here, and everyone's in Gore-Tex, which I'm pretty sure cures COVID.
It cures it.
That's so funny.
Fleece and Gore-Tex definitely work against COVID.
Pretty sure you're right.
Yeah.
Okay, so as we've alluded to a few times now, so this week we have a very special guest. Who's also part of the Believe Network, and is, I believe, I'm going to just pull him into the stream right now, and then I'll let him give us his like full statistical breakdown.
Or we could butcher his life story.
Or we could butcher it. Mike Reese.
Here I am. Nice to be
welcome.
here. Hello, everybody.
Welcome. I know. I love you. So Mike is the longest tenured Simpsons writer of ever in the history of the show. Is that what I know?
It's funny. I've been saying it. I didn't coin it. And then Al Jean, who's now my boss, he was my writing partner for years. He's been there like 2 weeks longer. So he objects to that. So yes, I am the second by 2 weeks. It's like the Simpsons for years would brag, we're the longest running show on TV. And I think Law and Order came on 2 weeks later, something like that. So we always had this record. Nobody knew that Law and Order would have had it except by like 2 weeks.
Dick Wolf, he screwed up.
I think neither Dick Wolf nor your boss are here to defend themselves. So as far as we're concerned, you are the winner.
Yes, both these men are just crying their eyes out on their gold yacht.
They're watching right now.
Yeah, I mean, quite frankly, we don't know if they are or aren't watching this stream right now. So there's a real possibility Dick Wolf is watching right now.
He's on every week.
Exactly. Well, welcome, Mike. Thank you so much for joining us. We've been very excited to have you on. I know that Free Day is a writer in LA. I'm a writer in like less interesting terms, but everybody, the world of The Simpsons, I think, has defined comedy for generations now. I think it literally is safe to say at least 2 generations.
Wow.
So I think it's really interesting being able to talk to you about this stuff. And I think through the lens of Reddit, which is obviously what our podcast is all about, there's a world of obviously the Simpsons subreddit itself. But I think what has been really interesting the last few years has been all of these predictions that
here we
Simpsons
go.
have made.
You had to lead with that. Okay, sure, why not?
But I think it's a testament to your writing. I mean, I think this is what I think is so interesting about that topic is it is like speaks to the brilliance in the same way that like Mike Judge, you watch Idiocracy or something, and you're just like, man, that guy really knew what was going to happen. Yeah. And I think you would ask Mike Judge, and he'd be like, no, I didn't know it was going to happen. I just like looked at what was happening, and I thought, wouldn't it be crazy if this happened? And then it did, right? And I have a feeling it's probably similar to The Simpsons, but you know, it's nice being able to talk to you about it because I think you can talk to some of these specific instances of that and the show's inception.
Yeah, it's a great topic, and it just gets bigger and bigger. And the hard part is only nobody has come up with sort of, here's our glib, quick answer to that. And you don't want to be too much of a jerk. It's been great for the show in that I think a lot of people, younger people, are just watching the show like it's a psychic prediction show. What will happen next? They don't know it's a comedy. They don't know it's a cartoon. They're just looking for, we're like QAnon. They're just sort of, okay, what little pearl of info will they drop us next? So it's good for the show. But on the other hand, The Simpsons is a very cynical kind of place. And this is just the kind of thing that makes you think people are idiots.
Of course. Well, it's cynicism built on an intelligent way of writing, I think. I mean, I was watching some last night because I was obviously coming into this and my girlfriend was watching something else. I was like, you know what, like, let's watch some Simpsons because like I've said in the beginning, the preamble of the show, it's like I wasn't allowed watching Simpsons as a kid. So like my friends are constantly
You said that 3 times. You're a
That's
man.
I know.
I don't know. It still feels weird.
You're terrible.
They don't let me. I know. It's very. I can't get over this. I go to therapy about it now. Is the thumb by which I function under my parents.
That's your victimization card you like to play.
It is my victimization card.
Well, as a man growing up who never was allowed to watch The Simpsons, and then you lead into it.
People out there listening to you right now, they grew up without shoes.
Yeah, exactly. It's not an American luxury. Man. It's an American necessity.
They couldn't afford a vaccine. But yeah, go on.
So I was watching it last night, and I was like, I don't want to say I was stunned at how sharp it was, but I was amazed at how much I was laughing out loud, and I was doing the kind of laughter that I like, which I was just kind of going, and then I would just like kind of go back to like half paying attention, and then something would catch my ear, and I'd be like, and then I would just go back to half paying attention, which I think is like for me is a mark of really good writing, is because it's just like it's something that catches and then moves on, and so. But yeah, so why don't we? And I also, by the way, I also want to talk about some of your travel experiences because just because we do want to plug. You have a podcast as well.
I have a podcast.
And
yeah,
you have a podcast, and it's all hilarious. Well, I don't know if it's all hilarious. At least the one episode I listened to this morning was a hilarious story. A hilarious story of you traveling through Nepal, and it's just seemingly just these stories that you write about your travels, right?
That's it. Yeah, I have when we talk about it, it all does tie into The Simpsons somehow. So people, we won't shift gears radically, but very quickly, just to set it up, is the idea that when I'm not working at The Simpsons, I travel, and I've been to 134 countries. And I go to the places nobody wants to go, like Iran and Syria and Libya. And I've been to the North Pole and stuff like that. So, and I can tell it funny. That's why you should listen to it. It's not boring. So
I was listening to the episode about Costa Rica and describing the sloth in the trees. I can't think of a better description than a big furry pair of tree testicles from like 40 yards away. Like, how are you supposed to tell what that is? Like, it's just, I love it. I haven't traveled a whole lot, and like listening to the episodes that have come out, I already know I'm like really pumped to listen to the episodes for like Iran, the North Pole, like you said, like the really, really crazy places.
And the other thing Simpson-y about it, and then we'll get back to Simpsons, is just the idea, I'm sort of telling you the truth that nobody tells you about travel. Yeah, right. And some of it's very happy surprises, like that Iran is one of the nicest places in the world. I can't wait to go back there. But like tomorrow, what will launch tomorrow is an episode about the Northern Lights. I went to Iceland in the dead of winter to see the Northern Lights, and the Northern Lights suck.
Wait, what?
They suck.
It didn't change your life? What?
And you've all, it's sort of this kind of massive lie that's been going on. Because here's the weird thing, and again, we'll get back to Simpsons. The Northern Lights photograph beautifully, and they look great on camera, and they look like crap in person. They just look like smoke coming out of an ashtray. And
amazing.
And that's it. So, it looks good in pictures. So you see it in a magazine, you got to go. And then you go there and you feel like an idiot. But then you take these great pictures, you show your friends. Nobody in the history of the Northern Lights has had the courage to say, these suck. Don't go.
Finally, you're able to stop the big Iceland tourism conglomerate from continually perpetuating these trips. Let's just cut the bullshit. It's funny not about that great.
The travel shows, as you're talking about it, there aren't that many, there's zero travel shows that I can think of that are at all humorous. They're all so self-important about the majesty of whatever they're looking at. True. And I've been to a handful of countries, nowhere near as many as you, but you go to a lot of these places, you're like, this is kind of crappy. There's electrical wires. My eyes are burning from smog. It's like hot or whatever, whatever the thing is, but nobody wants to talk about it because they just dropped 10 grand and they don't want to come home and say, that it wasn't that great.
Everybody loves their vacation. I guess that's episode 2. That was Costa Rica, where everybody tells you to go to Costa Rica. And at least it may be great 51 weeks a year, and I went the bad week. But Jesus Christ, what a terrible time I had there. And I address it at the end that you spent a lot of money on a vacation. You don't want to feel like an idiot. So you tell people you had a great time. But wow, I had a bad time there. So, okay. Simpsons, what did they predict? They predicted I would have a terrible vacation.
They predicted your terrible vacation. End of episode. There we go. Great. Thank you.
There we go. It all ties up in a bow.
It all ties up. I mean,
it's
so
like
our
Christopher
format,
Nolan
put
this together. Yeah.
We do not have, we do this often where we will be like, we're going to talk about this. And then an hour and a half later, we're like, oh fuck, we need to talk about that thing. So it's not a big deal if we can talk about whatever. And I think talking about travel is really interesting through your lens too, because at the end of the day, you have been to some crazy places. So I would love to talk about travel more. And the more I was listening to that podcast this morning, which again, it's called "What Am I Doing Here?" Right?
What am I doing here? Yes.
Right. Yes. And so podcast called "What Am I Doing Here?" also on the Believe Network, which we are a part of as well. So I think you're 3 episodes in, right?
We are 3. Yeah, the number 4 drops.
And it's also
tomorrow.
The format is interesting too because it's not you talking. You have a hired gun who reads the stories, right?
No, that's me.
It is you.
It's somebody compared it to an audiobook, which was nice.
It is like an audiobook.
It's not just a bunch of people shooting the breeze. It's not that. You never hear a dog barking in the background, which is what you hear on every other podcast. I am
ours included.
Ours included, yeah.
Yeah. So, although my wife is now grinding something, I don't know if you can hear that.
That's normal on our podcast.
We've been married for 33 years. She never ground anything till this moment.
What could possibly be grinding in there?
I don't
mortar
know.
and pestle, just yesterday.
We're getting into spices, Mike. Yeah.
I think it is. I think it's cinnamon. So, now I forgot where I was going. Oh, the podcast. Yeah, I'll tell it real quick, which is, so I work a day a week at The Simpsons, and because that's all I'm good for at this point. And I would come in, every Wednesday, and everyone's saying, "What'd you do this week?" And everyone's saying, "Oh, I watched 2nd season of Fargo, and I did the True Detective sucked, and blah, blah, blah." And they go, "Mike, what did you do?" And I go, "I went to North Korea," or, I got kidnapped in Honduras. I had better stories. And so a guy at work said to me, "This should be a podcast. This should just be you telling these stories." And he says, I know everyone in podcasting. He said, I got friends in Patreon, blah, blah, blah. So I said, all right, I'll do it. And I spent $2,000 on a big microphone, and I got all the equipment. I scripted these podcasts. They're not off the cuff. I hope they sound kind of funny. It's like stand up. It's very polished to sound natural. I make the 3 podcasts. I send it to my friend who knows everybody in podcasting. I go, so who do you know? He goes, I don't know anybody.
Absolutely.
I was just trying to come across.
Hollywood, baby.
That was it. He just wanted to look like a big shot. So luckily, I had a friend from Believe, and he hooked me up. Otherwise, I'd be so mad.
Oh.
Are you writing the stories from memory or journals or notes, or I mean?
It's almost all from memory. So you get that kind of impressionistic.
Nice.
It's not research. It's not Rick Steve. It's like, and so it's a lot of talking about, here was a horrible hotel I was in. Here was a waiter that tried to punch me. It's just the things that really stick in your head more than the cultural surroundings.
So it would be hard to replicate the trip one for one because the details might not be there.
I even wonder, I go, geez, how true are these stories? But they're funny stories. Cool. I'll go to Wikipedia. I could work much harder. We have 100,000 photos that I could be looking at, but I don't. I just sort of, this is what stuck with me. And and it's got to be a funny story or I won't tell it. It's like I've been to Spain 5 times. Nothing funny ever happened. So you're not going to hear about Spain. Get with it, Spain. And really quick, just the other thing about the production of the thing is I knew nobody's going to want to hear this voice for 15 solid minutes. So a lot of the stories involve my wife saying, let's do this, let's do that. So I said, all right, I'll get her in and she'll play herself whenever she's got dialogue.
I love that.
And then I said, you know what? But then half the stories are me dealing with a tour guide in Africa or a waiter in South America or something like that. Right. I said, I need a voice actor. And then it hit me. There's a doorman in my building he saw me 15 years ago. He saw me on a Simpsons documentary and suddenly goes, I got to audition for this guy. So every friggin' day, this man has auditioned for me as I leave the building. At the beginning of the day, he does a little shtick. I come home at night, he does a new character. 15 years of auditioning. And so I said, I'm going to give him a break. Hell yeah. Let me use him in the podcast. He's at least here, He's in the building. So I bring him up. I give him, he's playing 15 different roles. I put him in front of the microphone. And the guy's friggin' excellent. He's so talented.
Wow.
He's been able to do every character I've thrown at him, men and women. He had to be Werner Herzog last week. He had to be Werner Herzog talking to a guy in the Ivory Coast. So he's German and an African. And he did that beautifully. He takes direction great. So he is, of all the doormen in the building, he is by far the most talented.
That's
most talented
awesome.
voice actor of all the doormen in the building.
The Hank Azaria of doormen.
He's literally as good as, maybe not as good as the Simpsons guys, but any professional I've worked with, he's absolutely as good as those guys.
I don't know if that's good for. Yeah, I don't know if it's a good sign for voice actors or a bad sign, but
it is. I feel terrible. My sister even took a voice acting course. Is everybody wants to break into voice acting because they go, of course, I have a voice, I can talk, and
I don't have a face.
If you're a good voice actor, you can do 40 jobs a week. And in the early days of The Simpsons, before cell phones, these guys were all on pagers, like drug runners, and they would run from one job to another. So literally, you only need 30 people to do all the voice work that America can possibly come up with. So
Yeah.
it's very hard to break into.
It's like you don't need thousands of people to do voices
No, you
in the
don't.
world. You just don't.
No.
Just need
Damn.
one more
As I
man.
say,
You
this
do 'em
guy
all.
is good, and you'll hear him on every episode.
Maybe that's where podcasting came from. Everyone who didn't have a job in voiceover became a podcaster.
It's like making your own starting your own business, kind of. It's like, shit,
Yeah.
no one will hire me, so
Yeah.
So
I'm
I
gonna
got the
make people
baker
listen to my voice.
Guess I'm starting a bar.
Yeah.
When I created
amazing.
the podcast, I said, all right, I need my famous friends to help promote the thing.
Right.
And I don't have that many famous friends, but I sent it to Weird Al Yankovic. Here's my
Yeah.
new podcast. He's got 5
He's the
million
internet's
followers.
favorite person. Yeah.
Yeah. He's the greatest.
And Al he just wrote back to me, said, you know, Mike, I was just sitting here thinking the world needs more podcasts.
I
Amazing.
love him.
He's
A little dark, cynical edge from
You need
Al
more.
Yankovic.
yeah, absolutely great guy. That really made me laugh.
Oh, so good.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Well, we'll have to get him on ours then, because he sounds like he loves the podcast.
Yeah.
He's like Reddit's like favorite person though. There are few people in the world I think that receive universal acclaim, and
Yeah.
I think it's like Weird Al, Jack Black, maybe Steve Austin, the wrestler. I think that's like the only ones I can think of. Like,
Weird
who else?
Al, he is one of the greatest guys in the world. And, you know, anyone who even digs a little deep into his past sees, he's brilliant. You know, he graduated high school at 16 and was the valedictorian. He's not at all weird. He's not, but just tremendously nice guy.
I thought you were going to drop a big bomb about Weird Al's backstory, his past right there.
No,
If you
nothing.
dig deeper, you'll find out Weird Al
And that was fun. I just went out.
is a
with
QAnoner.
we went out one day for lunch, and it was on Hollywood Boulevard, and they stuck us right in the window, and
Amazing.
you could see, everybody going by, and I would see people looking in, and I realized everyone in the world knows Weird Al. It's like your parents know who he is, and your 5-year-old kid knows who he is. He's literally more famous than Mick Jagger. My dad wouldn't recognize Mick Jagger, but he knew who Weird Al was.
That's actually an interesting accidental segue into The Simpsons, because I feel like that is really the story of The Simpsons too, in a way, which I think is what makes it so powerful. It's become this thing. Well, it's not even become this thing. I mean, it's been this thing for a long time, but I think that you've obviously seen the Homer backing into the shrubs,
Mm-hmm.
the GIF always happening, and the meme. And like, I think that the language now of contemporary media consumption and sharing, obviously with like the younger, much younger than us, is all through the memification of media. And like, that is probably I think that's probably one of the most omnipresent memes on the internet, is Homer backing into the bushes. So that itself, I think, is a testament to like how the longevity of that show. So anyway, all right, so let's talk a little bit about The Simpsons, and we'll probably talk more about travel. But
Okay. If we got to.
Our
What
two
am I
favorite
doing
topics.
here?
I'm okay with it. Yeah. So
And the Simpsons
so first of all,
travel. They go somewhere every
travel.
year.
So Frida and Dog, did you guys grow up watching The Simpsons?
Well, let me tell you a little bit about my Simpsons journey. My evil cousin, and who is not evil anymore, by the way. Just Mike, to give you a little background on my cousin, I recently uncovered a presentation I made about my early childhood trauma, like last year. I guess it was when I was unemployed. And I have an entire slide devoted to my cousin, who was a bit of a bully growing up. But he introduced me to The Simpsons because he always had a bit of an edgier taste than us when we were really little. And we were like, my mom was very overprotective. So my cousin was the one who was like, you guys want to watch The Simpsons? So I always felt like I was kind of breaking the rules so I guess it's your dad and I were kind of both overly sheltered Christian kids.
Right. Overly sheltered Christian kids.
Overly sheltered Christian kids. But it's been a real renaissance as I've gotten older, because I'm trying to watch them all now. But it's it's not as familiar with me as it is with Eric Jr., I'll say.
That kid was badass.
My cousin.
Yeah. He smoked oregano.
He smoked oregano. He sold oregano. He used one of those like cool hand buzzer like pranks all the time. He was very cool.
Watch out for that.
Cool. That's a cool gesture.
He was a cool
What
guy.
about you, Freed?
Yeah, I was like a young boy within my family. I was the young one on the younger side. So everyone else had already been watching The Simpsons. So I think I sort of got into it by proxy of just knowing they think it's cool, and then sort of got into it that way. But nobody was paying attention to me as a kid. I like, my dad is like a junk collector. He had like extra TVs in his garage. I like stole one, put it in my bedroom, ran cable like out the side of the house, plopped it into the side. I had to take a TV going in my room when I was like a little kid. They didn't know about it for like 2 or 3 years.
Wow.
It was like one of those. It was chaos at my house. Yeah. They probably given up by that point. So love. And then I can remember just not understanding a lot of the Simpsons jokes that were over my head when I was a kid, because my older cousins and brothers and stuff thought it was so funny. And I remember faking a lot of like, oh, yeah, that is funny, right? But I don't know why, because I'm dumb. But I definitely was attracted to like just Bart Simpson because he was a boy with a skateboard. Initially, that was like, I'm in. Where do I sign up? So
I think a lot of people, when you're a kid, I think that was kind of the attraction. And I think that might have been part of why my parents were like, no bueno, The Simpsons. They were just like, Bart, he's a bad kid. I don't want you to be a bad kid like Bart.
yeah.
And then on the other hand, Lisa was like the original feminist, and she was such an icon for like little girls who wanted to learn the saxophone. So
Yeah.
Greta ripped her off 100%, right?
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Simpsons
Greta
predicted.
Thunberg totally ripped off Lisa Simpson's entire personality.
I like two of you guys were kind of raised Christian and repressed, and one guy has grown up in a house full of chaos, and you all wound up in exactly the same place.
Look at us all here right now.
It just shows you parenting doesn't count for anything.
We all ended up in our childhood bedroom today.
I had an episode on last night I too was watching Simpsons episodes, like early episodes to catch up. And I have a 4-year-old boy who loves skateboarding, and he's gotten recently into Guns N' Roses.
He is Bart.
He kind of looks like Bart.
I love that he's into Guns N' Roses.
He loves Guns N' Roses. He sings.
Right?
He just likes the rhythm. He likes that fast rhythm, you know.
Yeah.
But he's. I think it was the first time he saw The Simpsons was last night, and not just because I had it on. And he's like, he just starts laughing at Bart doing Bart stuff, and he doesn't know really what he's saying, but he sees the kid on a skateboard goofing around, being a wild, and he's like, oh yeah, I like this guy. He like leans over, he's like, I like this cartoon. He's like, what is this? And I'm like, wow. So it's, he's in now. He's like been indoctrinated.
Oh my god!
Oh, I love it. That's great.
Yeah.
I mean, it's always been a secret of the show because they're always going, "What's the secret?" But one is just it has this giant audience, none of whom are watching it for the same reason. It's families can watch it together, and they're all getting something completely different out of it. So, it'd be nicer to be something like Christianity. Everybody's going there for the same reason. But,
Flanders.
We've got a million different small audiences.
Mm-hmm.
It is a great point. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Dad.
Well, it's interesting too, thinking about it through the lens of, it's so many other shows now, I think, have in some capacity copied the formula or like not rip-offs of, but like, Family Guy. I think the same character development is based on the same idea, right? Mm-hmm. And then I think South Park is a little different because South Park is kind of its own weird formula and its own weird kind of genius. But I think some of the more popular shows, even Rick and Morty, I think one would say, has a little bit of the same nucleus, right? Which is like you have a young innocent thing, and then you have the kind of old wizened weirdo. And then like watching those two things kind of collide in the same way that you see different aspects of the dynamics of The Simpsons collide. I think it's just, it goes again. I don't know what you guys based the original concept of The Simpsons on in terms of character development, but it seems like so many things have been derived from it since, right? That it really, it shows that secret sauce,
Well, I cheated, Mike, and I've been listening to your book on Audible, so I know the answer to that, Dad. But I'll let Mike maybe.
What did I say? I mean, because it may not be the answer I give now.
Oh, I think you were just describing the Matt Groening's, pitch story of where the characters maybe came from, and how he developed them in 8 seconds or something.
That's exactly true. That is. I've been telling that story for so long, and then it was just recently I heard James L. Brooks on a podcast. You know, the man never talks to me in person, but I had to listen to a podcast where he told the same story, which is Matt Groening had come in for a meeting at the Tracy Ullman show. And it was 5 minutes before the meeting. Somebody said, "Oh, we're excited to hear about your new project." And he had no new project. So in 5 minutes, he just sat there and invented The Simpsons. And I think the fans must know by now, but what a lot of people don't know is he invented it in 5 minutes. And how did he do that so fast? Well, Matt Groening's parents are named Homer and Marge, and he's got sisters named Lisa and Maggie.
Right.
That is so good.
It is unbelievable. So if he had put like half an hour into it, how good it would be.
I related to that. I was relating to that tidbit of information because I work in TV. I develop and pitch and sell TV shows. And so I've been in 100 meetings where they go, "This is just a general conversation. Right. Don't bring anything." They're not going to. It's not a pitch. You don't need to be prepared. And then you walk in, they go, "What are you going to pitch us today?" And you kind of go, "Oh shit. I was told by everybody who wears suits, who drive nice cars, that this is just a conversation." And then on the fly, you start improvising a joke. And it's more times than not, like they like that thing than the thing you spent 6 months developing. And it's, I don't know what that is, but it happens all the time. Like, so I was relating to that story. Not that I've ever created or sold The Simpsons, but I'm a loser.
And it's true that, because you can go, Simpsons, it was created in 5 minutes to be a 1 minute show. It's
right.
Again, people know who are listening that it started off as these 1 minute cartoons on the Tracy Ullman show. And I think of South Park the same way. That was just a video greeting card. I was one of the guys got the VHS tape in the mail. Just here's a card we made to entertain our friends. And when I heard, they're going to make a show out of it, I go, how? There's nothing there. But they did it.
I'm still saying that. I'm like, I don't know if this show's going to succeed or not. There's nothing there. Keep saying that. But I'm now relating. One of the things I love about The Simpsons is we talked about earlier, but as you relate to the characters differently at different ages or stages in your life. Like now that I'm a dad, like I've always loved Homer, but really Homer's really becoming a relatable character lately, because as a parent you feel like you don't know what the hell you're doing, you're screwing up all the time, and all the best you can do sometimes is just love your kids even though you're terrible at your job. And so Homer really is like he's a real beacon of hope for a dad like me who's figuring it out. So he's great.
Yeah, we all, writing the show, we would all, especially when we were creating it, just Homer was our dad. And it was really how we perceived our dad more than how they were. It's like Matt Groening's father, Homer Groening, was a documentary filmmaker and a surfer, but he, to young Matt Groening, he just looked like Homer, just looked like big and loud and angry. And my father was a physician who wrote history books as a hobby. And it's like my dad was Homer too. And Sam Simon, one of the other big creators of the show, he always said, but yeah, my father was Homer Simpson. It's like, your father was a Jewish millionaire with one leg. How can he be Homer?
But it really, I
want that Homer dad.
The perspective of the show's writing, though, because you are writing it from the perspective of Bart or Lisa. I think is kind of really the implication there, is that kind of the perception of your. It reminds me of like Charlie Brown in a way, where like the adults always speaking in gibberish on the phone, right? Yeah. Where like it doesn't matter what they're saying; it's just a perception of them being a supervisor character, right? And I also, this is a different thing entirely, but talking about that one the kind of 8 minute pitch or the 8 second pitch or whatever. I also always think about this with Disney, where Mickey Mouse is 3 circles, right? And they've turned it into this unbelievable entertainment empire based on the tiniest, simplest drawing of a mouse, right? And so I think it's just a fascinating thing that you could turn something as simple as like a nuclear family into the relatable kind of, now 3 decades old kind of America's most important television show, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's very, very, very special. I think very special for a lot of reasons.
I don't know about you guys, but I don't sleep very well. I'm really, really good at staying up late and staring at my ceiling and watching Wives with Knives and all the shit TV that is my favorite. But falling asleep is not my strong suit. So I'm always looking for new ways to get my shit together. And the second that my head hits the pillow, my mind starts racing. What didn't I do? What do I need to do tomorrow? Blah, blah, blah. So if that sounds familiar to you, I know it sucks. And luckily, I found a cure. It's called Sunday Scaries. And Sunday Scaries realized how to make products specifically for the overthinkers and the night owls like me. Sunday Scaries CBD gummies help me decompress, they clear my head, and they help me fall asleep so I can actually wake up a fully functioning human being. So no more sitting in bed, listening to my dog fart next to my face, doing absolutely nothing. Or absolutely everything except sleeping. So there's no risk to buy. In fact, the company offers 100% lifetime money-back guarantee. If the product's really not for you and you're noticing it's not giving you, the help that you need, don't worry about it. Sunday Scaries is in the stress-relieving business, not the stress-causing business. So just send it back, get your money back. They're not going to try to make you hold on to something if it's not working for you. If that doesn't give you confidence in the company, I don't know what will. So we got you 25% off to prove it. If you visit sundayscaries.com and you use my promo code REDDIT, REDDIT, for your discount, that's promo code REDDIT, REDDIT, for 25% off at sundayscaries.com. They're freaking amazing. You won't regret joining their squad. Check them out. Get a good night's sleep. Stop overthinking. You'll enjoy them. Check it out. Cut.
So I guess getting into, and like I said, I mean, we're going to be kind of like talking in and around The Simpsons the whole time, but let's get to the subreddit Simpsons Did It.
Okay.
So I think Simpsons Did It. So, this is the whole show today and kind of this episode. If you're either watching on the stream, thank you for everybody that's watching the stream, and then anybody who's just listening. So, when we got in touch with Mike, we were like, well, what is an interesting Simpsons subreddit that we aren't going to just talk about like r/Simpsons. We want to talk about something that was a little bit meatier. And I think that what's interesting about the Simpsons Did It thing is I think every couple months now, I feel like people have like cottoned on to this idea that the Simpsons predicts things.
Yeah.
And so we're constantly seeing these stories, and there is a subreddit that kind of documents it in its most microcosmic form called Simpsons Did It. But I also think that, there's what is this?
This was like the perfect meme I found that is a combination of The Simpsons and Mike's travel stories, I feel like.
Amazing.
It's for anyone who's listening and not watching, it's an image of Homer in the Amazon going on a Amazon River cruise type of, tour. And the tour guide, who looks suspiciously like Josh Gad, if you ask me, says, "Behold, the Amazon, but quick, because we're burning it down." I don't know what season this is, but assuming it's a prediction, this is probably well before we started destroying the Amazon en masse, like we are now.
Yeah.
I laugh heartily.
Always timely.
I know. So this is actually an interesting. Before we keep going, I know we are getting some questions from anybody who's streaming right now. I'm going to try to hit some of these at the end, just so people know. I know somebody asked, which I don't know if you are authorized to say this, but I think it's actually a good question. Is how do you think it's changed since going to Disney? If you feel like the concept of the show has changed, or if kind of the integrity has remained the same, and I think through the years in general, I think it's an interesting question.
Do you want to pull up your political answer now, Mike? Or
no. I'm happy and glad that I can just say it's been great. Yeah. It's been
How
great.
Was Walt to you? Yes.
They've, they decided it's like when they bought us, they bought Family Guy too, but they don't tell anybody that. And I think Family Guy's on Hulu, but we're a big selling point. We're the number one thing on Disney Plus. So they've given us this giant audience, and they appreciate it, that this is something people are coming to Disney Plus for. And thank God, you know, if you're buying Disney Plus for your kid, there's something on it you can watch too. Mm-hmm. So Disney's been really great. They said two things. One, they said no more smoking. They said don't show people smoking. And, you know, that's fine. It really knocks the character out of Patty and Selma.
Dude, right.
Yeah.
What about vaping?
Yeah. I don't know. We did a vaping show already. It's typical of Simpsons, which is we did vaping. You know, it was like
we did it.
It was like a Steve story in one episode,
yeah.
so we can't go near there.
They just wear like 30 patches each. Selma.
Yeah, you know,
nicotine patches. Yeah,
it's a little bit of a challenge. And what's funny is it shows you how quickly perception changes. My whole life, I've seen people smoking in movies, and then suddenly they got rid of it. And it's you know, overseas you can't see it at all. In a Japanese movie, in an Indian movie, you'll be watching a movie, and you'll see something kind of tiled out, something or blurred out, and it's a cigarette. So you can still see boobs and stuff, but you can't see a cigarette. And you know, within a month of this policy coming in, I tune in TV and I see someone smoking and I go, ooh, that's bad. So it just shows you, you know, you can change people's tastes pretty easily. And
I will say, I like I said, my 4-year-old's getting into Guns N' Roses, so I'll let him watch some YouTube videos of Guns N' Roses.
Every time you say that, it will never not make me laugh.
My 4-year-old's getting into Guns N' Roses.
But everybody in 1989 on the Sunset Strip is smoking 40 cigarettes at once, and he's like, "What are those things in their mouths?" And I'm like,
wow.
"Oh shit,
lollipops.
Those are lollipops." Yeah, and then he would like put something in his mouth.
Don't.
And they're all smoking penises. But he like put something, he like rolled up a piece of paper and was like, and I'm like, and so he was mimicking it. So I'm like, oh, this is a real thing.
See, this is factually true. Yeah. Like it is cool looking.
It is. Yeah. Oh, he thinks it's the coolest.
Yeah, that is objective. That's an objective reality. It actually does look cool. Yeah.
It's the one thing that we haven't been able to conquer. It just is cooler.
I mean, we are a definitively pro cigarette podcast, I would say. By the way, let's get to our first sponsor, Philip Morris.
Philip Morris, friend of the pod.
Laramie cigarettes.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, I guess
that's what Disney has done to us. No smoking.
Okay,
and
great.
The other thing, we have a trick where we do all these musical numbers on the show, and traditionally we would take an existing song, and instead of paying for it, we would change 2 notes, and then it was like, now it's our song. And Disney said, don't do that anymore. And it's like, you know, good for you. I mean, here's the Simpsons. We're always fighting the bootlegs, and then here we are bootlegging songs by Stephen Sondheim. So that's literally that's the only thing Disney has said to us.
That's good.
Luckily, you have Weird Al on your corner, because I think he's pretty good at changing songs for his benefit. So
he pays. Awesome. You know, people don't know how Weird Al works, which is he has to go to the artist, say, do I have permission to parody your song? And when he records a song, he gets no money for his lyrics. All the money, all the song royalties go to the original person.
Wow.
And then he did a song. I know way too much about Weird Al, and that's why I'm here to talk about Weird Al. And he did a parody of the Kinks song Lola called Yoda. Yeah. And he said that was the hardest song he ever had to do, because he had to get clearance from the Kinks and from George Lucas. And then they got all the money for that song. He gets his performance royalties for being such a great singer.
God.
That's the business of being Weird Al.
Man, he's running a charity too, man. He's just running
seriously, but it's that velvet voice that brings in all that cash for him.
I'm sure people
He told a funny story where he had to meet with Nirvana. He said, I want to do a parody of Nirvana. And as cool as you want to think Nirvana is, they were so excited that Weird Al was going to parody
That's
them.
adorable.
It makes them even cooler.
Yeah, and Kurt Cobain goes, so what are you going to do? And he goes, we're changing Smells Like Teen Spirit to Smells Like Nirvana. And they were like, oh, okay.
Let down. Hoping for something a little better than that.
Amazing.
Oh, love it.
Okay, so I guess so. I'm again like this is what we like to do. We talk about things and kind of go like, yeah, there's something in here that we're going to talk about The Simpsons. But so I guess going back to the predictions. So I think the subreddit itself is Simpsons Did It. So r/Simpsons Did It for anybody who's listening along. But I actually think a good starting point might actually be there's been a couple articles as of recent where talking about the biggest hits of this Simpsons Predicted It world. I think Time actually did an article about it, which we don't usually use Time as a reference, but I think this is a good reference point. And I think we should just go through some of these and talk about, like, I don't know if you were in the writer's room for it or why they happened the way they did, and kind of maybe some of your process about how you even struck gold on these. Because I think some of them, like we talk about like Trump. I know there's like one reference to like Lisa mentioning Trump as she's kind of becoming president, which I think is it's always interesting when people talk about Trump becoming president as a like they predicted it was going to happen, because it was used as this like sarcastic dystopian future for a lot of places, and then it happened. And I think that I think for you, it must be a very interesting experience having watched that happen, being like, damn, this was not meant to be a documentary. We did not meant to do it
joke.
This way.
Yeah. It was a joke. And the amazing thing is, people have to know, because everyone shows the wrong clip to show Simpsons predicting it. It was just 2 seconds in an episode set in the future where I think Marge says, wow, President Trump really wrecked the economy. Right. And this was such a throwaway joke that nobody remembers who thought of it. Nobody, this is something that somebody would love to brag about it. Nobody remembers who thought of it. I know. I found out later it wasn't the original joke even. It was President Depp. It was going to be Johnny Depp. And just think, Johnny Depp could have been president if we'd said
he was close.
So it was Depp and nobody laughed. I think Depp was hard to hear. So it was a very last minute idea to change it to Trump. And it's a joke and everyone will say, oh, it sounds crazy. But he had already announced back in the year 2000, I'm thinking of running for president. So it didn't come out of nowhere either. We didn't.
Totally.
Right.
So this is part of what's wrong with an interview like this is I'll just take the wind out of everybody's cherished belief with a long.
Well, you do though, man.
So, but like
travel.
Yeah. So
talk about the Northern Lights and then predictions. You're just like, take the wind out of them. Take the wind out of them.
That's it. I am Mr. Balloon Prick, they call.
Balloon prick. But so that episode was, according to Time, it was season 11, episode 17, Bart to the Future, right? So this reads, so this was, as you know, we've inherited quite a budget crunch from President Trump. which is very funny. But I think that I think speaks to the writing process a little bit, where it's like, he was running for president in 2000, right? Like, an analog now would be like Kanye West or something, right? If Kanye West, if you did an episode about, in the year 2040 and you mentioned Kanye West's presidency, right? Like, he already tried to do it. It's like not that crazy that he would do it again, right?
Right. There's, if I could jump into the history of this too, is on Rowan and Martin's Laughing, which is, let's call it the Simpsons of its day. It was sort of political comedy. It moved really fast. It was silly. It was smart. But on Rowan and Martin's Laughing, they would do news of the future. And one of the jokes was, the guy just came out, in Washington today, President Ronald Reagan said, and that was it. That was the whole thing. He didn't even finish the joke. The joke was Ronald Reagan was president. So it's been done, and that can happen. And if you get it wrong, nobody remembers.
Right. But the second, that's kind of like our other favorite mystic predictor, which we've got two. You, The Simpsons.
Mike Reese and Baba Vanga.
And Baba Vanga. Baba Vanga is, just to give you a quick little rundown, and anybody else who's new and listening, Baba Vanga is a Bulgarian mystic.
And she was in the writer's room, I think.
I think she was in the Simpsons writer's room too. She was a blind mystic who predicted quite a few things, including 9/11 and Barack Obama being the first Black president. But I'm thinking she had a bunch of incorrect ones too that we just don't think about.
Yeah, people just don't talk about the ones that she got totally wrong. Yeah.
Those aren't fun to talk about. It's really fun to talk about the ones that you get right.
The other thing with a joke is very often to make a joke, you take something that's real and you go one step beyond it to make it look silly. And so this is an amazing one. This is nobody knows this. The very first commercial parody on SNL, when the show began, the first commercial they ever had was for a 3-bladed razor. And it was like, because at the time, 2-bladed razors had just been invented, and they're going, this is so stupid. Imagine there were 3 blades. Right. And you could see that ad now, their fake ad, and go, you not even know it was a parody. You know, now we're
now we're up to 7 blades.
So this kind of thing happens.
I can only imagine there'll be 10 blades soon. Yeah.
I did one in 1981. I was writing for National Lampoon magazine. Right. And this was a joke. I got $25 for it. I go, Warner Brothers has just announced production of Lost in Space, the movie. And it was like, and I'm sure you're going, where's the joke? And there was a Lost in Space, the movie, like 5 years after that. But at the time, it seemed like the stupidest idea in the world. You know? You're going to turn this cheesy old TV show into a film.
I love that.
So, I mean, what I'm trying to say, I guess The Simpsons is higher profile. We've been around longer and told more jokes, but this kind of thing does happen all the time.
I love it.
It's like somebody saying, saying there's going to be a Fast and the Furious 12.
Right, exactly.
Came out, right, and now we're at 9 or something. So,
right.
Yeah, no, it totally makes sense. So this is actually, I think that's one side of it where you kind of take a little bit of the Trump ran for president. He's a ridiculous person. 1 + 1 = 2, right? But this one, I saw that I was just like, wow, that is actually a fascinating bit, right? And I think that this actually speaks to the intelligence of the writers. But so the Nobel Prize. So this is in season 22, episode 1,
right?
Predicted in 2010. So this was you guys predicting the Nobel Prize winner.
Yeah.
Or Milhouse predicting it. So this was, Bernd Holmstrom didn't win the Nobel Prize in economics until 2016, but Milhouse put him on the Nobel Prize betting pool, which in itself is hilarious, by the way.
Right.
So where did this one come from? If you can speak to it, you don't have to speak to every single one of them, but
I was there for it, and what I like, it's 10 years ago, so it was before Simpsons predicted it, but it was just it was in a script, and it was just this funny idea. I feel like it was the bullies were running a betting pool on the Nobel Prize, and that was the joke. It's a pretty funny idea.
Yeah.
And then we said, and then it was, I'm going to say it was Tim Long. It was one of our writers saying, well, let's try and handicap this. Let's try and find out who's going to win the Nobel Prize in, I think, economics. I don't remember any of the details. But he made some calls and he did some research to see who the front runners were to win the Nobel Prize in economics. Right. And this was the name that kept popping up. So he put it in the show. So that's one time, we literally did. And I think it's the only time we literally tried to predict something. And it just involved 5 minutes on the internet to figure it out.
Seeing who are the favorites. Yeah.
But this is, I guess what I find so compelling about that though is I always talk to my girlfriend about with King of the Hill this way, right? Where I love King of the Hill because I think it's just I think Mike Judge is just a genius, and she just thinks it's the dumbest show in the world, and I'm kind of like, well, yeah, but no, right? And I think that it's kind of like
it is,
Simpsons,
but
right?
It's not.
Where I think Simpsons can be very stupid and extremely intelligent simultaneously, and they don't cancel each other out. I feel like they coexist really comfortably.
I think that's the sweet spot. Yeah.
That is the sweet spot. I mean, I think that the fact that you can work in this joke about the Nobel Peace Prize in economics and get it right,
Mm-hmm.
while also, having like I was watching. My friends. I mean, this is actually the only time that I've really watched it like very focused. Is my friends for Halloween. They love watching the Treehouse of Horror series, so we just kind of like go through them,
Mm-hmm.
which are amazing. I know you're credited with writing a couple of them, and so I was watching I think 3 last night, and it was a joke where it was just like it was when the King Kong, like the Homer King Kong, and somebody from the crowd goes, "Look at the size of that platform." So stupid and so funny, but it's like that is so dumb, but the Nobel Prize, like they coexist in this world of humor that I just find so compelling as like a writing strategy where like you don't have to write it dumb if you're using smart references, and like you can make a fart joke, but in a way that it still alludes to this hyper intelligent understanding of the context of the fart joke that makes it feel smart and dumb at the same time, which is just fascinating. So
I love hyper intelligence of the fart joke.
Yeah. And it is, when we were, again, making the show that first summer, it was a summer job. I've told the story way too often that we made 13 over a summer, and I was sitting in the writer's room before it came on, and I said, how long do you think this show is going to go on? And everybody had the same answer. We all said 6 weeks. So not only did we not think it would succeed, we didn't even think we get to show all 13 we made. So that's a bad prediction. But those were the days when if you tried to do something different on TV, you'd get canceled after 6 weeks.
Right.
So that was all. And so as a result of that, we just said, well, nobody's watching this. Let's just do whatever we want. And that would involve, okay, we haven't heard a fart joke on TV. Now's the time we'll do a fart joke. And nobody's made a joke about Omu and Type E, these Herman Melville novellas. Let's do that too. Let's just get a bunch of crap on TV that we never saw before and we'll never see again.
You make a good joke in your book. You say, I think like the most controversial and racy show on the air at the time was Golden Girls.
Golden Girls, the most fast-paced and reverent show on TV.
Yes, and I was laughing
because corpses and a mummy.
And then The Simpsons came out, and you're kind of going like, at the time that the shows that were out were not, we're not what we think of TV today at all. And
that's it. So those of you whose parents wouldn't let you watch it, it's very reasonable. And people would ask me, when can I let my kids watch The Simpsons? And I would always go, I don't know, 12. I don't have kids, but I thought 12 is a good age. And now, you're watching it with your 4-year-old.
But I probably shouldn't be.
So,
one of my
dog. I pulled up another one, by the way.
Yeah, this one is like the most insane prediction in my opinion, because I feel like you can't.
This
one's just like you can't get this wrong, because according to one of the physicists who like looked at so let me throw up what the actual equation.
Boson.
So let me share a different tab real quick, because apparently a physicist named Simon Singh, who is also the author of The Simpsons and Their Mathematical Secrets.
Which is also fucking nuts that there's a book about The Simpsons and mathematical secrets.
So he actually apparently this equation that Homer is working through is, if you work it out, you get the mass of a Higgs boson that's only a bit larger than the nanomass of what a Higgs boson actually is. So the Higgs boson's an elementary particle that helps explain why other particles in the universe have mass. So this is something that it was done in 1998. Right. And the Higgs boson is something that was discovered in 2013 after like $13 billion were funneled into an experiment. And like someone's looking back and it's like, we could have just probably skipped that part and looked at what Homer was writing down in this.
Then look at the donut transition there. It's all in the donut. See?
Yeah.
It's all in the donut. Like,
and that, there's a great story that goes with the other equation he's got there too. And again, it's not so much that we're predictive or anything, we're psychics, but we work really hard. And I think whenever we had something like this, we'd go to David Cohen. David Cohen's the creator of Futurama. David Cohen was a scientist before he was writing fart jokes for The Simpsons. He's a very brilliant scientist. So he said, David, give us something to put on the blackboard. And, up until in the old days of TV, you just fake it, X equals a fish or something like that. Nobody cared. He said, give us something good here. So we did. We said, figure out your best guesstimate for the Higgs boson mass. And so it is real science from a real scientist. And I think everybody's everyone loves to play the game where they go, and Simpsons predicted it, and scientists are going, it's remarkable. I think we were off by 10 million %. I think it's literally the Higgs boson was 100,000 times smaller than we predicted. It's some ridiculous number like that. So we weren't really that close, but I think in science terms, 10 million % is close enough. With quantum numbers and that kind of thing.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, and also just no other show is making the kind of effort that would be required to try to extend a joke that way. I mean, I think that's kind of, again, that's what makes it so interesting is like anywhere else where they're doing that, you just said it, where like they put an equation on the board and they just go, oh, this is just like cat plus dog equals fish, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But then you guys go, well, that's not funny. That's not interesting. We're going to actually do the thing, right? And then end it with a donut, right? But ultimately using this thing. I mean, I also think about the writing on like Arrested Development. I've always like been so compelled by that show is like you watch and every joke is a compounding joke from 6 episodes before and then 3 seasons before. And then you can't stop watching it because it just is like so well written. And so I think seeing that kind of thing in comedy, I think is really special because it's, you do see like in, True Detective or something like that. In the first season of True Detective, you're like, wow, I can't believe they've stitched all these, whatever. It's so well written, but we think of well written in drama as like poetry, right? It's about like the dialogue and the relationship of the characters. But I think well written in comedy is like a different metric entirely. It's like it is an intelligence of the way that something connects to other pieces.
There you go. We have our dog.
There we go.
That was mine.
It's right on cue, Doug Bob.
This is basically the Today Show over here.
Pretty much.
But
I think that's what's so interesting about it.
Yeah, I think what makes it, Oh, sorry, I was just gonna add, like glom onto that, but sort of this adding like a specificity and a detail to a joke makes the joke better, and I think that's something you said. You guys work really hard. You sort of, you know that, so you go that extra mile, that extra step to find the most specific, most obscure detail, which I think the real nerds of the show go, yes, like that's what we love about this show is the detail, the specificity.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's really funny and makes it different than other jokes that might be similar, because that's always
really hard is all it comes down to. And if The Simpsons can be credited with anything, I just remember I worked for 10 years in TV before I went to The Simpsons, and we always worked long hours, but you never worked that hard. You never cared about every joke, and you never cared about researching and getting your details exactly right. Nobody cared about that stuff till us, and that's something we brought to it. And it brings me to Arrested Development, which is, they used to write that show 2 doors down, and 2 buildings away from us doing The Simpsons. And those people worked harder. They worked as hard as human beings are physically capable of working, which is they worked 20 hours a day and they worked 7 days a week. And that was it. They worked to exhaustion. And there was one day my wife and I, it was like 3 a.m. on a Sunday, and I go, I'm hungry, and she says nothing's open. I go, Arrested Development is going to be open. So we go. I said, I know they're going to be working. It's only 3 a.m. on a Sunday, and I go in, and there they are in the middle of the workday, and I'm just scared to get some cinnamon peanuts, and then I went to their snack room and got some food. So the work shows. The work shows, and you can't fake that.
No, that's so true.
I wonder because I think I find that when I'm writing in those kind of like, half lucid kind of hyper manic states of writing, I don't find myself as productive. I like second guess every single thing I do, and I can't get past like this one like tiny minutia, and I kind of at a certain point I'm just banging my head against the wall. But it sounds like with you guys, and I think even something like Arrested Development, it's a matter what about that kind of work process makes it effective versus it being destructive?
It can be both. And as I say, there are people who are called perfectionists, and they're just churning. They're just going through it and second guessing and third guessing, and they have something good and then they throw it out. And I hate that kind of job, and I've had those kind of jobs too. But it's just sort of working productively and, always moving forward. The show I've been watching a lot. I'm so late to the game. I've been watching Rick and Morty, and I said, well, I know how to make cartoons, and I don't know how they do this. I can see the levels of hard work, and every episode, I think, if I were working on that story, I'd go, well, I've got it, and that's it, and let's do the show. And they always go 3 twists beyond that and make it so much better. And the only thing I can see, and this is why we live in an age of better TV now, is you don't have to make as many. You only make as many as are good. It used to be just given when I started in TV. You got to make 22 of these. And even James L. Brooks, with such a stellar reputation, he says you do a couple of good ones, a couple of bad ones, and everything else in between. But now, if a network will say you only have to make 10 episodes in 2 years, like Rick and Morty, they go, all right, we'll make every single one a classic.
Totally. And I think, I'm pulling Don back on. He fell off for a second.
Hey.
I mean, Rick and Morty's a really interesting one too, because Rick and Morty feels like they go just like, they fly in the face of logic in almost every possible instance, right? Which I think is kind of the premise of the show, of course. But I think that it's really interesting in terms of writing, because every time I watch it, I definitely feel like you cannot predict where it's going to go. And with Simpsons, it's like there's a little bit of a linear pathway where it's not about predicting where it can go, but you kind of like, where B is going to be, and you're just watching A get to B, right?
Yeah.
With I think Rick and Morty, it feels like they say, hey, we're starting here, and then they don't tell you where it's going to go, and they just let it happen, right?
Right.
And I think that's a really fascinating way of doing it. And I think, this is, Friday, we've never really talked about your experience, I think, in writing this capacity. So Friday wrote the show called Workaholics.
Workaholics? You worked on that?
I'm a co-creator of the show, yeah. So I designed it. We wrote it as a web series for YouTube way back in 2006 or 7, I think. And then that was our sort of, pitch material that we pitched to Comedy Central, who bought it. And then all of a sudden we were making a show, and I didn't really know how to write scripts. It was like one of those situations. And so I had to retroactively figure out how to make a TV show. And then it went on for 7 seasons. It's actually coming back.
Wow. Same guys?
On Paramount Plus this year. This is not a plug for Paramount Plus, but
damn,
they're kind of relaunching their own. I think Viacom owns Comedy Central, which owns the show. So
that show is so great. It's so great. And and I kind of got mad in that I don't think it was most of what you hear on TV that's supposed to be great, I think is terrible. I don't like them at all. I'm talking Mad Men. I think that's a piece of crap.
Me too.
And then I stumble on something like Workaholics, which I kind of knew was out there, and I see a billboard. I go, every episode is friggin' great. It's so funny, and these guys are so lovable and terrific. Yeah, I love that show.
Awesome.
Awesome. Cool. Yeah.
How can you bury a lead like that? That show.
It seems like we buried the lead for like 6 years because a few of our listeners are like, "What?"
Yeah, we've never really talked about that.
I get
only anonymous internet users. That's what we're known for on this podcast.
You weren't listed in the credits as my 3 days.
No, exactly. Yeah, I have a first and last name. Sometimes, but yeah, it was. I mean, for us, that was like I went to a shitty college. There's 2 colleges in the TV world, and I wanted to bring this up to you. There's Harvard and
you
the Harvard
Lampoon.
Or there's Arizona State, which is what Harvard makes fun of, which is where I went to school. So
that's the Harvard of the Southwest.
Well, I feel like you can go one of 2 directions in education: the best or the worst. And so I chose, I was a late bloomer and I went the other way. But all of, that show for me was coming out of college essentially extremely unprepared for the professional world. And then a lot of my friends were in that same boat. It's like, well, what do you do now? You get a shitty sales job. Well, what's that like? This is fucking miserable. Oh my God. This is the polar opposite of what we were doing last summer at pools in Arizona. Is now we're in an office wearing shitty suits trying to sell some crap to people that don't want to buy it. So what do we do to get through the day? We smoke weed. We drink too much. Maybe we drop acid at work, whatever. That's kind of the DNA or the nucleus of where that show comes out of, struggling to kind of like figure out your 20s when you're extremely unprepared coming out of a college like my alma mater, which, by the way, is a pretty good school. The research facilities are second to none.
I agree. Yeah.
I'm sure we're all familiar with Grady Gamage Auditorium.
That's right. But The Simpsons famously made fun of Arizona State a handful of times, and everybody does. But
we also do on this podcast.
And so do we. And so do I. Yeah. But
it is a nice school. I lived like 5 minutes away from that for many years, and my brher went to school there. So,
wow.
It's
cool.
a college. It's
a college.
If you Google Mike Reese, you Google my name, the first thing that comes up is hates Harvard. So I went to supposedly a good school, and I wish a massive sinkhole would swallow that horrible place up. I would pick it to swallow Harvard and then Mar-a-Lago in that order.
Harvard, Mar-a-Lago, and then the entire country of Spain, I think is what we've gotten out of this. That's
Mar-a-Lago is on, it could be swallowed by a sinkhole just from where it is in Florida, right? I mean,
sinkhole country.
I'm a bit of a geologist on the side,
I think if you write that into an episode right now, I think it means it's going to come true in like 2028. So I think, if you wish it, Mike, I think it comes true. I think that's what we've gotten out of this whole episode. So if you want Mar-a-Lago to not exist, or if you want Harvard to not exist, you just got to write it into a Simpsons episode.
Oh, please.
It'll happen.
This is like the new thing of like steamed hams. That kind of, it was like Bill Oakley turns in a script, whatever, 27 years ago. And it's 22 short films about Springfield, and one of them had the steamed hams run in it. And I remember reading it, and I told Bill, gee, that's the funniest thing I ever read. And then nothing happens. Nothing happens for 20 years. And then suddenly it's all over the internet. It's memed to death, steamed hams, and Bill Oakley, suddenly I like steamed hams, and I'll come to your town and steam a ham. And it's so ridiculous.
Carson Daly's calling him for comment. He's like, what?
It's amazing. All right. Well, we're closing in on the kind of end of this soon. I know we're kind of at 8:45. So, I think I would actually love to know a little bit, Mike, what your kind of getting to the prediction theme. Still, I know that we have wandered away from it many times, but what would you say of your experience writing on the show and kind of being associated with the show for so long, what was one that you were like, damn, I could never have expected this? Like what like a prediction that you just like, holy shit.
It just happened. It just happened because, I mean, for years I just go, I get it. This is dumb. These things happen, all of that.
Right.
And then Kamala Harris is inaugurated as VP,
right.
and she's wearing exactly the same outfit Lisa wore as president. I mean,
I saw that was too. That's
something where
insane.
I go, how did that happen? And there's no explanation for it unless, subliminally, Kamala's dresser was a Simpsons fan. I can't believe it. And that's it. That's the
I can
only
find
one
out.
I don't have an explanation for it. And I saw that and I go, oh, maybe all these guys are right.
Yeah,
maybe we
pulling
do
this up.
predict stuff. Here.
I will.
This is insane. It was absolutely insane. I saw this and I was just like,
Wow.
what in tarnation? Like, this is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Oh, my wife works in styling and worked with some people that worked in this at this inauguration. So I'm gonna go dig up an answer about that, and I'm gonna email it to you guys after this.
Okay.
We'll get to the bottom of this thing because that's too crazy.
Yeah, I also think that this is kind of our putting on our conspiracy hats here, but I think that the people who work in political advisory roles are both, and sometimes they're one or the other, are like extremely dumb. Like, I can't believe how dumb they are, but also there's some people that I'm just like, man, you are thinking many steps ahead. So I always wonder this about the political roles of these people, about whether or not they have digital literacy and an understanding that, if you make Kamala dress like this Simpsons character from this one episode, people are going to make a thing about it on the internet. It's what happens. And it's going to increase relevancy of her as a likable character. So we suggest doing it this way. Because it just seems like, I can't believe, like, it doesn't make sense that this would have happened. Like, that she'd be dressed exactly like this for an episode where Lisa is being was Lisa the president? Was she?
She was the president.
This episode?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. It was all working backwards, too, from a pretty shaky idea that just Bart said, we said, what will Bart be like? And as an adult, and it's like, he'd be like the brother of a president, like Roger Clinton or Billy Carter. And,
Obama's got a sort of a bum brother too, right?
Yeah, they all have bum brother. And that was going to be the whole comic premise, is Bart is the bum brother of a president. And in fact, this episode, which is so cited now, Simpsons predicted it, blah, blah, blah. At the time it came out, USA Today ranked it as the worst Simpsons of all time. And that was it. They ranked, I think it was when we did our 300th episode, they ranked them 1 to 300, which, is idiotic anyhow. But they did it, and that was number 300. And so years later, I'm on Twitter and I'm making some joke about Simpsons predicted it, and a guy writes in, I'm the USA Today writer. I covered it. And I said, yes, you're the one who said it was the worst episode ever.
I remember you.
We remember stuff. I remember stuff.
I have kind of like another one more, maybe towards the end, broad kind of question to propose. But, I feel like, and you tell me, like in the 90s, did we take ourselves more seriously as a country and in our culture? And things seem so off the rails now, where everyone's like there's no rules anymore. Like the shamelessness is just everyone's TikToking with their shirt off 24/7. Like I feel like in the 90s, people at least held themselves in a higher esteem, like publicly. Like there was a little more like, I wouldn't say class, but like people seemed to care more about how they were perceived publicly or something. But like, what did that give you guys a better platform to make fun of? And now is it harder to make fun of people because they're so shameless? Like have the dynamics changed a little bit and sort of ridiculing or satirizing because the culture seems to have shifted so hard? Or am I just getting old? I don't know.
No. You're right. I mean, when you talk about watch the first season of The Simpsons. I mean, don't watch it because it's not that great, but if you watch it and go, this is what scandalized the nation. This was shocking. We were condemned by the National Council of Churches. President George Bush Sr. came out and criticized the show. And you watch it, and it's not only tame, it's kind of boring. But that's what it used to take to shock everybody. It didn't take much.
Wow.
And there's some. If anyone ever wanted to give Donald Trump credit, there's something they should give him credit for, which is there used to be a million unwritten rules and they didn't matter. And none of us, everyone thought, well, if you're going to go into a presidential debate, you're going to have to at least do a little research or behave yourself. No, it didn't matter. And Trump, he lost every debate he was ever in. He wasn't even trying. And it didn't matter. And you go, oh, wow, well, there's a good lesson. Presidential debates don't matter.
Right.
There was a guy, just to get one more historical fact, there was a guy named Howard Dean. And I don't know.
Howard Dean.
Howard Dean, they were going, he's going to be the next Democratic nominee, next president. And he lost the New Hampshire primary. And he came out and that night he goes, well, we're going to win Connecticut. Woo! And we're going to win Arizona. Woo! And we're going to win. And everyone goes, and that's what killed his career. He said woo, and he said woo too much. And it was like, now we know from Trump, Trump would do a woo a day. He would do something like that. It had nothing to do with anything. And it was just sort of, people's minds were made up about Howard Dean, and they didn't like him. And it was sort of just the media going, oh, he shouldn't have said woo so much.
That's so true.
Oh, man.
That's it. So that is the answer. Yes, the world, it's Trump has woken us up to anything goes. There are no rules. And we sort of, and I'm going to get too philosophical for a second.
Please.
So much of our modern society is based on people just going, hey, unwritten rules, nobody wrote them. So an example of that is Uber. Everyone just used to think, well, you can only get in a taxi. You're not going to get in a car with a stranger. A guy who's just a guy can't be a taxi. And Uber said, why? Where is Aaron? So suddenly Uber and, Airbnb. There's either a hotel or someone's house. And someone says, why can't a house be a hotel? So that's the world we live in now. That's a good way to get rich right now. It's just to figure out what is something we're all taking for granted that's just not really a rule.
Yeah.
Well, as the world changes, we will always have The Simpsons, hopefully, to keep us tethered.
The Simpsons is always as good as the world is bad.
Yes.
So,
that's a fact. I mean, that's a brilliant takeaway. Honestly, I mean that is, and it's interesting because the world continues getting worse. I think in a lot of ways.
Which is just great news for The Simpsons.
Yeah, and I think you guys have. I mean, you guys have been going for 33 seasons now or something. So I think that the fact that you got renewed for 34 and 35, and maybe I don't know if that's worthy of celebration or if you guys are like, yeah, of course. I mean, obviously, but it's continuing to get renewed. So
nobody's going to cancel. Which executive's going to be like, you know what? I have a big idea. Let's cancel The Simpsons. Like it's going to be a hard call to make.
That's an emboldened, very, very emboldened person at that point. So
I know. I hope it goes forever.
Yeah. So I mean, hopefully, yeah. So this is another one, by the way. I think it's probably maybe one of the last ones we can do. I find this image absolutely insane. So if anybody's if you're just listening to this podcast, this is an image of the UK, I guess the Brexit vote, and it is like almost to the pixel of the photo of Homer and the Moo Moo.
Right. Which is my favorite episode, I think.
The world, this is like insane.
I love it. The shape of England is the shape of Homer and a Moo Moo. Like the colors they chose are the colors of the Moo Moo. Like it's beautiful. It makes me wonder if the person who chose the colors was like, you know what, the shape kind of reminds me of.
I mean, it could be a troll, right? Like it could be a troll, but it definitely feels like this is another one of those that I'm just like, this has nothing to do with the intelligence of the writing. This is entirely to do with like the cosmic forces behind The Simpsons for whatever reason.
Spirit of Baba Vanga.
Yeah, and who figured that out? It certainly wasn't us. We're going to dress Homer in a Moo Moo that looks like a future Brexit map of it.
Yeah.
Like, who saw that Brexit map? Go, hey, this looks like Homer. You know, he's a bigger fan than me. Notice that.
Are there anybody? Was there anybody on the staff that just claims that they predicted all this stuff? That's extremely egotistical about the claims. Like, oh yeah, I definitely made that on purpose. I kind of like that
this
approach.
This is your opportunity to throw Matt Groening under the bus, by the way. We're happy to tarnish his name.
Yeah, if I can tell a real quick story, it's a great thing that keeps everyone humble at The Simpsons is the idea that the show would be exactly as good without you. Even you know, I'd given half my life to the show, and I worked so hard for at least a few years there. But if I'd never been born, the show would be exactly the same. So everyone's pretty humble, except this one guy who worked at the show. Nobody liked this guy. And one day he came in. We said he'd been gone for a week on vacation, and it was a vacation for us. He wasn't there. And we said, how was your vacation? He said, well, you know, people heard I worked on The Simpsons and they were going to be funny, do something funny. And I said, I make America laugh 360 days a year. Can't I have 5 days to myself? Are you fucking shitting me? Hey, you've never made anybody laugh. We've never gotten a joke in the show. So the only contribution this guy ever made to the show is we took that line and we had Krusty say it.
That's the best Krusty line of all time.
That's an insult too. Krusty say it.
He's just drinking that bottle of Triple X liquor. Yeah.
It's such an interesting. I mean, I hope the show goes on forever. I'm gonna start doing I've been doing this with The Wire, where I'm just like, shit, man. I just have to watch The Wire. I'm such an idiot. I can't believe I didn't watch it. So now I'm like gonna do the exact same thing with The Simpsons, and probably, I mean, knowing how I am, I'm probably just gonna watch Treehouse of Horror over and over again and just like call that my Simpsons experience. I like that kind of stuff. But yeah, I'm gonna start going through. Maybe I'll start with that 300 list. I'll start with the quote unquote worst Simpsons episode ever.
Work your way up.
Tick away over and over again. Just like
it's so great when you have kids, you get Disney Plus. One of the greatest things about Disney Plus as a parent is you go, oh sweet, the Simpsons are here. All of the Simpsons are here. 100% of them. It's the best gift. So I'm excited to watch them all with my kids. Now.
That's
all right. Well, do we have any other closing remarks for Mike? Do we have any other questions or thoughts?
I'm just pumped for tomorrow's episode of Mike's podcast. What am I doing here?
What am I doing here? So tomorrow, which this will probably be out by then, but tomorrow you said was Iceland, right?
I think it's Iceland and the Sudan. It just shows you what you get on the show. Iceland, and then I immediately go to an African country nobody's ever visited.
And if you're a Simpsons wonk, the book, I've been listening to it. Mike reads it. It's super funny, and you get a million great stories about everything. So I totally recommend that too.
Springfield Confidential.
Springfield Confidential, yes.
Check out his Twitter too, Mike Reese Writer.
Right.
So many awesome, just like little tidbits all the time. And I mean, just thanks for joining us. Like three people in a house with dogs. Barking.
It's really fun. I'm so glad I didn't have to talk about Reddit at all.
No way.
You told me we talk about Reddit. I go, I've never been there. And then I looked at it. I go, Jesus, you're like, this is the ugliest website.
Very chaotic website. It's a very chaotic website.
Was it designed by the Soviets in the 50s?
Yes.
Pretty much. I love that our fans too. I mean, you're getting new Simpsons watchers. I know you guys were really scraping the barrel on audience. You guys really needed new Simpsons audience. So that's what you're gonna get out of this. So and we'll have to have you on again when we do our coveted North Korea episode, because I know you've been in North Korea.
Yes.
So
think of me, guys. This was really fun. So
thank you so much,
Mike.
Well, thank you so much. Well, all right, thank you all for listening. This is Did You Reddit, a weekly podcast about the internet by way of right at the front page of the internet. My name is It's Your Dad.
I'm Dog Boobs.
My Free Day and Mike Reese.
Mike Reese.
Mike Reese of Simpsons fame, the longest running Simpsons writer, EP, creator. Are you considered a creator on the show, or is that just Matt alone?
It's Matt Groening gets the credit. He'll introduce me as the creator, which is very generous of him. And you know,
just throwing you a bone. Just
I
being
do
like,
live
oh
in
yeah, like
3
Mike wrote
houses
it.
and I live in an apartment. But
A nice apartment in Manhattan, though, I'm sure. So.
Love it.
And you know what? We're going to credit Weird Al Yankovic for being on this too show.
Yeah.
He wasn't here. We
And
can
your
talk about
doorman.
him.
yeah, and my
The doorman.
Trevor
Weird
Moore,
Al,
the funny doorman.
Love
the
it.
funny
Amazing.
doorman. So, all right. Thank y'all for listening. See you later.
Thanks, Mike.
Bye.
Bye.